Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode number 6 in the book of Titus. Paul is talking to Titus and telling him about how he is supposed to be passing on the sound doctrine that has been given to him. This is from chapter 2. We're going to be studying today 4 groups. We're going to be looking at older men and older women, and then tomorrow younger women and younger men. And each one of these groups, the question is, are we supposed to put these people out to pasture, or are we supposed to put them in position? And specifically, we'll look at older men and older women and see how they're not being put out to pasture, but instead they're being put into positions of service and teaching and power, and each one adorning the doctrine and staying, with their hand on the till, so to speak. All right, so this is from Titus chapter 2. But as for you, Paul talking to Timothy, teach what accords with sound doctrine. Older men are to be sober-minded, dignified, self-controlled, sound in faith, in love, and in steadfastness. Older women, likewise, are to be reverent in behaviors, not slanderers or slaves to much wine. They are to teach what is good, and so train the young women to love their husbands and children, to be self-controlled, pure, working at home, kind, and submissive to their own husbands, that the word of God may not be reviled. So let me start with older men. The way they adorn the doctrine is to be sober-minded. That is temperate and level-headed and restrained. That's the first thing. The second thing is dignified, worthy of respect, serious people of good character, above reproach. We talked about a lot of those characteristics in our search for good elders. Thirdly, self-controlled, prudent, moderate, master of his passions, not mastered by his passions. It's interesting that that's still mentioned in older men when that's going to be job number 1 for younger men here tomorrow. Sound in the faith. So again, the soundness that keeps coming up over and over in Titus is we want sound doctrine and sound behavior. Healthy heads result in healthy behaviors. And so he says, we want healthiness in your faith. That is, thinking what is worthy in your belief system, in the body of your beliefs. So let's get healthy as far as your spiritual life. And then in love, it's this agape love that's utilized, which is Christian affection and Christian fellowship and this fellowship meal, maybe a little bit of service in there. It's this unique Christian love. And finally, be sound in steadfastness. That is get your hope right, the waiting and the expectations and the ability to endure and the fortitude. So these men, these older men, are strong, reliable, they're serious, respectable, level-headed, restrained, master of their passion. The kind of person you'd go to for advice, or a wisdom board of directors, or maybe a formal elder or a deacon. And my thought in just reading all of this about the older men, and eventually hear about the older women too, it's going to be the same thought. Who wouldn't want to be in a church full of men and women like this? Who wouldn't want to be in a group of people where the older people in the congregation still have their hand at the controls? They're still functioning. They're still contributing. They're participating. They're loving. They're doctrinally sound. And they're steadfast through thick and thin, through difficulties and joy, still exhibiting the personal characteristics of self-control or whatever the ones we'll get to here in the women. And if you're not this person today, then let's grieve and get going. You're needed. You're not being put out to pasture. You're being put into position. And that's kind of the big point in my impression about this. Similarly, women, older women, are likewise, again, not to be put out to pasture, but are to be put in position. And that is reverent in behavior, venerable. It reminds me of the passage in 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 4. Let your adorning be in the hidden person of the heart, with an imperishable beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which in God's sight is very precious. The other things that Titus talks about is not slanderous. And it's the word diabolos, which is devilish. It's the way the devil works, at least with his mouth. And don't make yourself an enemy of the church by particular usage of your tongue. So the behavior, reverent behavior, and also reverent in your tongue. Not slaves to wine. So there's a control issue here of who's the master of this person. Is it the wine? Is the wine in control, or is the person in control? And then I love what the older women are to be doing, which is teaching. Teach what is good. Teach younger women. Train them up. Teach them to be self-controlled and working at home and kind and submissive to their husbands. My thought on that is these things don't come easily to people, specifically the people that are involved, that is women. They don't come easily, they don't come automatically, and they're probably best heard and taught by your fellow gender, your fellow women. So again, here, similar to the men, we have women who are wise and good examples of their actions and tongue. They're able to pass this on. They're active and ready in doing. They're addressing and avoiding some of the bad stuff, heading towards the good stuff. They're teachers and trainers. They've been there and they've got skills to share. So again, this idea of an older person in the church sitting on the sideline saying, hey, I had my day for this, now serve me, that could not be farther than the spirit of this passage, which is, let me just say it again, who wouldn't want to be in a church full of people like this? At their hands at the controls, functioning, contributing, participating, doctrinally sound, steadfast, teaching and training. This is a church that I want to go to, where the older men and the older women aren't put out to pasture, but they're put into position. Thanks for listening.